If there's one thing I didn't expect Halo Infinite to cause, is a PS5 fanboy spewing homophobic comments towards Xbox fans along with Halo fans, mainly because Halo Infinite doesn't feature any gay characters, so I have no idea how or why it's caused the amazing Lucas, a well-known PS5 fanboy, to claim it's a gay love story, and say that's why Xbox fans like it so much, which in all honesty isn't that much of an insult. I mean, even still, it's incredibly ironic for a PlayStation fanboy to be making highly questionable comments about homosexuality, considering the fact the Last of Us series has heavily featured LGBT characters for years. You've got to love how no matter what the subject is, these Sony ponies cannot
keep that same energy.
But either way, you've got to love how the guy was claiming Sony were racist only a few months ago, because they refused to give him a refund for the incredibly broken game at launch, known as Returnal. So there's a clear pattern of this guy making absolutely insane comments, but it's amazing that it only took a few months for him to instantly forgive them for their supposed racism. And that video of his makes some of the comments he makes incredibly ironic. So without further delay, I'll let the video play.
Halo Infinite is amazing.
I genuinely would like to know why the hell so many YouTubers still use these awful intros that I don't think I've ever heard of anyone actually liking. They don't even make sense from a YouTuber standpoint due to the fact they at most increase watch time by 5 to 20 seconds. And if you guys are like me, I usually click off faster on videos with these awful intros because they're rarely of high quality. At this point, it's kind of a sign that the video you're watching is going to be shit. I will have to cut about 30 seconds of his video out in a second because he spends an insane amount of time explaining that he finished Halo Infinite's campaign.
After some time of pondering and pensive thought, I began to have an epiphany. That's what happened. I had an epiphany, okay? Kind of like, I would say, Mary, where an angel came down to me and was like,
Lucas, it's an Xbox game, Lucas.
Let's be real, if it was an actual angel, it would come down with no controller, because PC gaming is the undeniable king. And if it was an actual angel, it shows I wouldn't be visiting you. And again, I'm questioning how the fuck this video has 998 likes, because even as a 4-year-old, I wouldn't find the voice changer crap funny, but somehow this grown-ass man does. People say the internet brings out the worst in people, and I've got to fucking agree.
And at that second, I realized, you're right. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Angel. Now, the Angel had a PS5 controller in their hand, so I knew it was an Angel, because demons have Xbox controllers when they visit you.
Surely an angel would come down with an Xbox controller, since according to the amazing Lucas, Sony is racist and doesn't care about black people specifically. I know when I imagine an angel, I don't imagine them being supposedly racist.
Regardless, I began to realize, I've been looking at this game from a PS5 perspective, right? Quality, great story, great amazing gameplay, replayability.
You serious?
There is one thing that most PlayStation exclusives are definitely not, and that's replayable. If there is a game that is definitely replayable, on the other hand, it's Halo Infinite. I managed to get 16 hours out of Days Gone before getting bored to death of the game and uninstalling it. Unlike Halo Infinite, which so far I've gotten over 137 hours of playtime in. PlayStation exclusives are great for a one and done playthrough, or at most completing the New Game Plus after finishing it originally. I have never gone back through one of their games, and I don't think I ever will, and neither do the majority of people.
Right? All this value that I've been looking from the lens at this PS5 game. Now, as an Xbox game, it's amazing. That's what I came to realize. As an Xbox game, this game, Halo Infinite, is amazing. Now, as a PS5 game, this game is utter dog shit.
There are quite a few Xbox games that I would consider better than Halo Infinite, like Forza Horizon 5. Halo Infinite is a wildly troubled game at the moment, and yet I'm still enjoying it more than anything else. I wonder why that is. Oh yeah, it's because even though it has lots of problems, it's currently better than most games that have been recently released. And the core gameplay is incredibly addictive, something you can't say for most PlayStation exclusives right now. There are at least 40% cutscenes, and we both know if Halo Infinite was a PlayStation Studios title, you'd be on your knees sucking it off.
I mean, let's take, for example, the gameplay. The gameplay? What gameplay?
Halo Infinite is 99% gameplay. There are barely any cutscenes in the campaign, to the point a lot of players were wondering where they were. From what I can remember of Halo Combat Evolved, that game didn't even match Halo Infinite in terms of how much gameplay there was. It has more gameplay than most Halo games I've played, if not all of the Halo games minus the non-mainline titles like Spartan Assault. And again, this is insanely ironic coming from a guy hyping up PlayStation exclusives, which are almost majority cutscenes.
You know what? The best way to describe the gameplay in Halo Infinite is probably the average Xbox user's life, okay? Unimpressive and repetitive. That is how this gameplay is. I'm telling you, there is no sense of progress in this game whatsoever, right? Halo Chief or Master Chief, whatever his name is.
How the fuck do you mess up the name of Master Chief this badly? It's literally repeated every 2 seconds by allies and enemies alike. Not only that, but later in the video we see that you have subtitles on, and he speaks quite regularly in this game, because 343 ended up humanizing him more in this Halo game than any other. It shouldn't be possible to mess his name up, and yet somehow you've managed to do it.
Master Chief in level 1 and Master Chief at the end, it feels the same. It feels exactly the same. You know what? What upgrades? You don't need any upgrades. You can beat this entire game just by upgrading your grapple hook. I want you to think about this, okay?
Well, no shit. Master Chief isn't suddenly going to turn into a god and develop superpowers. The most 343 is going to do is give you upgrades to abilities or new equipment to use throughout the campaign, which is exactly what they did. Similar to Doom Eternal, they gave you most of the tools needed to beat the game at the start, and then allowed you to master those tools over time. A very good design choice, but because it's not similar to the copy paste combat and progression of PS4 exclusives, you can't comprehend it, or are choosing to be blatantly ignorant to spew your fanboy bullshit.
I breezed through this game for the most part until we got to the final boss. Because the game, how it decides, you know what? It's a final boss. How do we make this, fun for the player? I know, let's just throw waves at the player. Waves and waves and waves and waves of enemies. Instead of, actually, figuring out a creative process of how to make this boss feel compelling, integrated into the story, maybe have some cool mechanics that we've used or had the player develop over time. No, they just throw waves of enemies at you.
I know this must be very hard for you to comprehend, but there is a very, very limited amount of things you can do in FPS boss fights. And how exactly is the boss not integrated into the story? I really don't get how he doesn't think the final boss is integrated into the final story. Also, no shit, an arena shooter is going to throw waves of enemies at you. That's literally how they work.
Now, even then, I know a lot of people are like,
Lucas, you're not playing it right. Lucas, you're supposed to grapple. Lucas, you can
everybody wants to tell me how to play the game. Now, I'll admit, this is my first Halo game.
Maybe instead of painfully trying to be funny and miserably failing every time, listen to the people giving you tips on how to play the game. Because as you said, it's your first Halo game.
I played it on Heroic, okay? That's why I played it, and I beat it on Heroic, okay? And I beat it without upgrading my shield, without upgrading, I don't even know what the other upgrades are besides the grapple hook. You don't need any of those because they're redundant, they're pointless, okay?
Well, here's something you obviously couldn't figure out yourself. If you did upgrade your shields and the equipment other than the grapple hook, you might have been able to beat the boss in under an hour. Yeah, it took this guy over an hour to kill the final boss, which he is shitting on the game for being too simple. So simple it took him over an hour to beat the final boss, and so simple to the point the game doesn't force you to upgrade equipment, to the extent it took him over an hour to beat said final boss. Truly an overly simple boss.
Even in the time, once I discovered that there were other weapons on the bottom level, it wasn't that difficult. And I won't even go over the checkpoints. For some reason, you can't determine when you want to save the game, okay? The game decides when you get to save, all right? So you could be in the middle of a boss fight. You're like, you got in the boss fight, his life is halfway down. You're like, okay, how about we save it here? Saving it right now would be a good time for me, the player.
I have absolutely no idea what fucking games this man has been playing because I have never heard of any video game allowing you to save mid-boss fight. And even still, the game saves so often there is no point in a manual save option. Also, I'd love to know how he played the game and didn't realize there were more guns than just the default ones. Like, how did he not run out of ammo? At this point, I'm honestly doubting he played on heroic, because there's no way in hell he didn't at least run out of ammo once and didn't have to pick up an enemy gun.
Game is like, no, F you and F your playstyle, okay? F everything about you, player.
Save abusing is not a quote-unquote playstyle. That's called cheating a game, not a playstyle. A playstyle is someone being defensive or aggressive, not fucking save abusing.
When it comes to the map, because you know they all want to jerk off about the map. Oh, the map size is so big. Oh, look how big the map size. There is nothing to do in the map size, okay? Nothing. It's a barren. They have little locations where you help out other soldiers. You get these fobs. What a fob. You have all these little side quests. And it's like, why? For what? So I can get another weapon? Why? What do I need this weapon for?
Everything he just said could be directly applied to almost every single video game in existence, especially PlayStation exclusives. The vast majority of what he just said is exactly what Horizon Zero Dawn did. I genuinely don't understand how someone can lack basic self-awareness to this degree. You could argue there's no point in doing side quests or unlocking new shit in any video game. However, it sure as hell doesn't make it true, and nobody's quote-unquote jerking off the map in terms of size.
And when it comes to the story, this is the only saving grace, it's the story. Now, from a PS5 user, I have no idea what the hell is going on. They don't explain who Master Chief is. They don't explain as far as the blue girl. They don't explain the other blue girl. They don't explain the mofos who look like monsters or whatever. They don't explain none of that, okay?
They explain quite literally everything you just listed. The opening of the game explains exactly who Cortana is, exactly what the weapon is, and shows you who the Master Chief is. If you're expecting them to give you a plot synopsis for Halo CE, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo Reach, Halo 4, and Halo 5, you're out of your damn mind. That would be a complete waste of time for both the player and developer. This is a continuation of Halo's ongoing story that started over 2 decades ago, but either way, no one should need an explanation for who Master Chief is. He's a Spartan who kills aliens. It's insanely self-explanatory.
This game is created for Xbox users. This game is created for Halo users. If you like Halo, then this is what this game is created for.
No shit, Sherlock. This is the 6th mainline installment of the franchise. Of course they aren't going to make the game for the Last of Us fans. They're going to make the game for their customer base, which is not an issue. That just means 343 is providing their customers with the product they want, something that is objectively good.
Apparently, Halo users have been, I guess, I don't know, conditioned to mediocrity. All the enemies look alike. So it's like, okay, this Banshee has red armor. Oh, but he's the leader of this Banshee with blue armor. Oh, and he's being controlled by this Banshee with purple armor. I'm like, what?
Holy shit, aliens of the same species look similar? Who could have guessed that? And come on, this is once again something that can be applied to almost every game in existence. The only PlayStation title I've played with varied enemies is Horizon Zero Dawn, and that's because it has to, due to the fact it's a hunting game. There is plenty of variety in Halo Infinite's enemies. If you're expecting every single enemy you find to be completely unique, then you're completely delusional. And again, no shit, an army has uniforms for their soldiers. Were you expecting them to fight you butt-ass naked or something?
Listen, the reason why I think this story is so great, and it's great from an Xbox user's perspective, because what this story is, it's a gay love story. And I think that's great. It coincides with the release of nail polish for Xbox users. So I think that's great. I think the alphabet being shown in this game is amazing.
We can all blatantly tell that isn't true. I mean, all it takes is one look at your channel, my guy. And most of Halo 5 was literally Master Chief simping for a female AI. I'm not quite sure how that's gay, but you know, you've got to make some highly questionable comments to enrage people.
What we come to later on discover is that Master Chief cuts off his connections, all right, cuts off his love to Cortana, cuts off his love to the blue chick, and he comes to find out that his true love is Esperanza, all right? And, you know, they hug it out, you know, bro stuff and everything, and they go on and live their life. All right, Master Chief and Esperanza. So it's a beautiful love story in that concept, is that Master Chief is finally coming out.
I don't think it's possible for someone to be less funny than this guy. I'd even go as far as saying I'd rather watch 24 hours straight of Amy Schumer comedy shows. How anyone plays Halo Infinite and thinks that it's a gay love story is beyond me. It literally makes zero sense. There's not even a single hint of that in the entire campaign. I mean, for fuck's sake, the majority of Halo in recent years has been Chief simping for a female AI. But hey, I guess you can't find any way to legitimately criticize the game, so you've got to turn to using gay as an insult. As I said on stream when I reacted to this video, link in the description below for my live reaction. I wouldn't at all be surprised if all of this was pure projection. This honestly just streams I sit on r/rule34 looking for Chief and pilot porn at midnight so that my family doesn't find out.
And he's relaying his, his homosexual desires with Esperanza. I think that's great. I think that's right in line with the audience. I'm sure many probably Xbox players cried when they discovered that.
I low-key want to see this guy's reaction to The Last of Us 2's fairly large subplot of a lesbian relationship. You just know he would either completely change up his attitude or keep that same highly questionable energy towards the LGBT.
So in that respect, I can't deem the story that much, okay? Because it's a great love story that I think resonates with their audience, with the core of their audience. Now, as a PS5 user, not so much.
Just wait until this guy finds out about the Pride PS4 Special Edition. If there's one console that has provided better LGBT representation, it's undeniably PlayStation. But I guess he's only anti it when he's poorly trying to make fun of Xbox users. Now we have thankfully reached the end of that god-awful video, which means we have reached the end of my video. So with all that being said, please do not forget to do all the things YouTubers will love to beg you to do, aka check out my Discord server, follow me on Twitter, as well as like, comment and subscribe. So now we'll see you all in the next video.